Hello? There's no sound.
Hello? Yes, I can see or hear.
You can or you cannot?
I cannot.
Yeah, I'm having issues too.
Okay.
Has the meeting started yet? It's 11:05.
Oh, okay. Amanda just chatted. They're having some difficulties.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, the
So
first Zoom was shut down. Amanda, should we leave and come back?
I
Thank
guess we
you.
should we?
She didn't say yet. She said she don't know. Me either. Okay, I'll be on standby. I'm here.
Me too. Who is this?
Oh, Essence, hi.
What's your name?
Essence,
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, here we
hi.
are. We're on.
I hear Franco on the back. Hi, Frank.
You too.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hi, sorry, guys, 1 minute. All right, we're gonna get this party started.
Okay, I can see. Okay.
So let's still notice that some situations just suck.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to another episode of Philosopher's Notes TV. Today, we have another great book, Lead Yourself First, by Raymond Kethledge, Michael Irwin, Lead Yourself First. Subtitle, Inspiring Leadership Through Solitude. If you want to be an effective leader, you need to start by leading yourself first. The way to do that is via solitude. We'll talk about that in the first big idea. And then talk about why that's so important and what you get out of it in today's discussion. I got this book from Alexandra, who got it after she saw it on Brene Brown's reading list. It is phenomenal, written by a U.S. Court of Appeals Sixth Circuit judge, which would be Raymond Kethledge, and a West Point professor of psychology and leadership, which would be Michael Irwin. Phenomenal. Our world needs leaders today, perhaps more than ever before, and we don't even realize the fact that we've lost an important ingredient to being an effective leader, which is solitude. So, fantastic book. As always, we have Philosopher's Note, a bunch of my favorite big ideas. 5 of them we will talk about today. Let's start at the top. Solitude. Inspiring leadership via solitude. The authors define solitude as basically you by yourself without distractions. So solitude equals you minus inputs. Now that might sound pretty obvious, and it is obvious, that is solitude, but they make the point that this just used to be the default mode of all effective leaders and thinkers, and frankly everyone. But these days, they say the information age could be called the input age, and that we're drowning in a tsunami of inputs. And when you constantly have input after input after input after input, it's really tough to get clear on who you are, what your purpose is, what's important to you, and how you are going to lead yourself and others. And again, before this just used to be the default. When you were walking from one place to another, you weren't looking down at your phone. You were contemplating things. You were reflecting on things. When you started your day, maybe you had a newspaper, but you weren't blowing yourself up first thing every day with your smartphone, et cetera, emails, blah, 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 blah. Jim Collins wrote the foreword to this book and talked about the cacophony of inputs that are going on in our lives, and his introduction to the book, I could have done a note on by itself. It was so good. So solitude, super important. They make the point that we didn't even realize that we were giving it up as we embraced all of this technology. We talk about this a lot more in our class, Conquering Digital Addiction 101. The attention economy is a $9 trillion, by some estimates, economy that's focused on hooking your attention as much as it possibly can, which is great for the people that are mining your attention. And again, technology is amazing, but we want to consciously engage with that technology and know when to unplug. So the question is, how are you doing with your inputs, and what can you do to regulate it more? Today, as you do that, you want to think about what you get out of it. So the book is organized around 4 primary things that we get when we take the time to actually create solitude in our lives, which they say, again, is absolutely essential. Here are the 4 things. The first thing is clarity. You get a deeper sense of who you are, what's important to you, how are you going to lead anyone else if you aren't leading yourself and you don't know what's actually important. The second thing is creativity. All right, so we get clarity and we perform at a higher level from a creative perspective. This is kind of akin to our deep work conversation we have all the time. If you're constantly doing shallow work, right, as Cal Newport would say, you're acting more like a human router, just responding to emails all day, every day. You're not going deep and getting to the bottom of things rather than staying on the top of everything every single moment of every day. That's how you get creativity optimized, is via some more solitude. Our third idea here is emotional balance. Leaders use solitude as an opportunity to recalibrate and create emotional balance. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the heroes who engaged in solitude historically. The book is all about historical examples of how to engage in solitude and how some great leaders have done so. But one of the things you get when you're actually pursuing that which you have clarity on, and you're engaging in the creative process of discovering how you'll bring that vision to life, you're going to get pushback. You're going to have failures. You're going to have challenges. How do you maintain your equanimity? How do you maintain your emotional balance? Solitude. Third benefit. The fourth one is perhaps the most important, although you're not going to get to this point unless you engage in the prior ones, which is moral courage. Ultimately, you need to have the emotional balance and the equanimity to do the thing that you need to do. And again, you're going to have a really hard time tapping into that vein of the deepest sense of what's right and have the courage to do that which is right if you're enervated by this constant state of input. Again, the solitude that we create for ourselves helps us lead ourselves such that we can actually lead others. So there's our 4 things: clarity, creativity, emotional balance, moral courage. As I said, the book is all about different heroes who have engaged in the practice of solitude in order to create these attributes and tap into these qualities such that they can lead effectively. Examples they use include Dwight D. Eisenhower. He's planning for D-Day, right? He had a ton of solitude, took a ton of time by himself to map that out. And to get intellectual clarity is how they described it, and analytical clarity, right? Think about that. D-Day invasion. The amount of complexity that went into and the planning that went into executing that as well as we possibly could. And Eisenhower in a leadership role and leadership capacity, imagine him blowing himself up with input. There's no scenario where he could have had the clarity and the creativity and then the balance and then the courage to do what he felt was right if he didn't withdraw from that cacophony. Again, this is 1940s, right? So he didn't have the level of stimulation we have, but super important. Another example, Jane Goodall, they talk about how she made her discoveries studying chimpanzee behavior. She originally was with a group of people. They wouldn't let a woman go alone into the forest and the jungle, right? But finally she snuck away and she was alone. And she had an intuitive clarity that came to her in her solitude. And she realized, wow, she was approaching it wrong, literally, and how she was approaching the chimpanzees. And she needed to lay back and let them approach her. And that clarity came from solitude. Again, imagine Jane Goodall blowing herself up on Instagram and trying to understand what she came to understand and the insights that led to her creativity and commitment and contributions to our world. Another example, Martin Luther King. They use the example of him and just all the different challenges that he faced as a young pastor, being called to his own leadership and greatness, right? And leading a civil rights movement. He received a call one night received many calls, but received a call threatening him that if he didn't quit and leave town, they were going to blow up his house and blow his brains out. In the middle of the night, he receives this call. He's sitting there in the kitchen. What does he do? Again, he didn't have the stimuli we have now, but he prayed in solitude for the moral courage to do what he felt was right. And from that moment, in that solitude, he found that courage and never again was he afraid. Now, 3 days later, and he was willing to give his life to the cause, literally, and he created that sense of moral courage in the midst of solitude. 3 days later, his house blew up, his family was nearly killed. Solitude is a secret sauce to our hero ideal that we aspire to. I spelled it in the Greek anglicized version of the Greek word heroes. As I've said a number of times, what does heroes mean etymologically? Right? Pop quiz. Do you know? If you followed my work, you may know. The word hero in Greek literally meant protector. A hero wasn't a killer of bad guys and a tough guy. A hero was a protector, and their secret weapon was love. They had the strength for two. If you want to have the strength for two, like some of those heroes we just talked about, solitude is your key to inspiring leadership. Fourth big idea is FOMO, the fear of missing out. The authors have a great perspective on this. They talk about what are leaders doing if a leader responds to every input, every email they get within a minute or two, and the average response time is something insane. It's like less than a minute. Most people respond to an email or some crazy number. He says it makes you wonder what they're doing the rest of the day. How are they ever actually stepping back and getting clarity on what needs to get done if they're constantly responding to the inputs? And we have a fear of missing out, whether it's on the email that you think you need to respond to within seconds or the news piece that you need to be up to date on. And they say, look, okay, yeah, you will fall a little behind, but a few hours behind, is that going to be the end of the world? And they say that leaders, not only, basically leaders have a moral obligation to step back such that they can work on these elements and lead themselves effectively first. And as I say in the note, you should have a fear of missing out, but not on the nonsense. You should have a fear of missing out on you expressing the heroic version of you, which will happen if we're constantly in that input state and never actually unplug long enough to figure out who we are and what we want to do, which leads us to our fifth big idea, which is tied to the idea of being heroic, magnanimity, which I believe was our final idea in our episode on Aristotle's ethics, right? We talked about having a great soul. And they say if you want to be a truly great leader, and they use Winston Churchill as an example, you need to get your soul involved. This isn't just a superficial level thing. You've got to go deep, right? And as we talked about with Aristotle, the word magnanimity literally means great soul. Great soul. And Aristotle talks about it as a virtue where, and again, Churchill is the perfect demonstration, where you actually believe and you see that you're capable of great things. And then you do the work to build the strength for two, to be a protector, to be a hero, to be a great soul, such that you can, in this context, lead effectively. But again, you can't do that when you're drowning in the tsunami of inputs. So, all of that to say, we need you to lead yourself first. We need you to step up. Be the great soul you're capable of being. I would say you're destined to be, that you cannot be unless you embrace solitude, which is you minus inputs. Look at this big four and see how you're doing on your clarity, your creativity, your emotional balance, your moral courage. Do an inventory of your inputs. See how you can reduce it such that you can be heroic. Let go of your fear of missing out on the echo chamber news and the rat-like impulse to respond to every email and text immediately, and get healthfully afraid of missing out on your ultimate potential. Give us everything you got. We need your great soul. Lead yourself first, lead us, and make today another awesome day. There you go. Again, I highly recommend this book. It's phenomenal. Have an awesome day. See you.
Very cool. That sounds really cool. I really liked a lot of things that he said. So just for clarity, this class that we do on Mondays and Fridays is for coaching to help you get your business where you want it to be. So on Mondays and Fridays, we basically do the same thing. But what I want to do, instead of just me pontificating and talking all the time, which I'm very good at doing, and I can do all day. I would like you guys to bring things that you may have concerns about with your business or with you, say, in the industry, and just ask questions. Like, feel free to interrupt me. So this is your time, and I want to be here to help you. When I don't get responses from you, that's when I'll just go off and kind of do my own thing. So you're kind of giving me permission to do that by not asking questions. So before we start, does anybody have any questions or concerns about real estate in general or their business right now that we can address? I just want to say, for everybody that's here, like, you guys should pat yourselves on the back, because for the people that are on Zoom and the people that are in the room, it says something about what you want to do for your business, because I can tell you right now, there's 10 times more agents that should be here that are not here, that are not doing what they need to do to help their business, because it's not where they want it to be, and they're just not taking the action. So it does say a lot that you guys are here in the room. But based on what the video said, I have talked about this before, and that's the solitude part. There's a big movement out there for like meditation and all that kind of stuff. Does anybody meditate in the room? You do? Okay. I'm not a big meditator. That's just not like who I am. It's really hard for me because I have like this crazy brain that's just like constantly thinking about everything. But what I've learned is that meditation is a general term, but you can take a form of meditation for yourself. And so if you're not a big meditator, or like there's a lot of value in stopping and just not doing anything. And the way I found to do that is that, you know, we have team meetings in the office where we all get together and we all check in with each other. We all see who's listings, who has what, and so on and so forth. You know, Sandy and I talk every day. We have little meetings throughout the day. But the one thing that most people don't do is they don't check in with themselves. They don't have a meeting with themselves. And so what I do is that I find time to meet with myself. And I do that in a lot of different ways. I have a car ride to the office and in the morning, and one home, where I'm typically by myself for the most part, and then I check in with myself. I shut off everything, or I listen to something. I do cold plunges at the gym, and I take about a minute or two to kind of meet with myself, because if you've ever done that, it's excruciating. But it's like taking time to literally stop everything, stop thinking about everything, stop responding to everything, and just check in to see how are you doing. And it goes back to clarity, because in this world, we're constantly getting hit with information, constantly. I mean, everybody here has a social media account, right? You open that thing up, you're getting hit, information. And so you're constantly bringing in this information, but what that does is that kind of clogs up. It's kind of like, you know, sugar and fat inside your bloodstream in your diet. It's like clogging up your arteries. And if you don't check out and just check in with yourself and have a little bit of clarity, it can make you like, you ever see the cat on the keyboard in that little meme that has the cat responding, like, kind of makes you a little crazy. And so I always talk about, like, anybody know like CEOs of large corporations? Like the CEO of GM, or just name a company, Tesla. Like, what do these guys get paid for? What is the CEO of a large multi-million, billion-dollar company? What do they get paid for? Does anybody know?
Coming up with ideas that are fantastic and they sell.
What does it take to come up with an idea?
Solitude, to be
You gotta think.
by yourself and do.
Most CEOs of large companies that have leverage to where everybody else is doing all the stuff for them, CEOs are paid to think. That's why I remember I saw, the first time I saw, it was Warren Buffett or one of these large CEOs says he reads 72 books a year. I was like, the hell? Who the hell has time to read 72 books a year? That is just ridiculous. That is not real. And then when I thought, like, wait a second, like, that guy's paid to think. Like, he's not making stuff or like putting together things and like filling out paper. That's not what he's doing all day. He may be signing a few things, but most CEOs of large corporations are paid to think. And so even though you're not a major corporation, you are the CEO of your personal self and your company. And your number one job is to think. And so I wrote up here, Think and Grow Rich. Anybody read Think and Grow Rich? Read that book. Like, seriously, that is number 2 on my list of all-time books, because it just really kind of organizes how you can be successful. And one of the things that he says in the book, he says, if you really have a problem you can't figure out, put yourself in a dark room, sit there and think until you come up with the solution. I swear to God, I have done that and I found solutions out of things that I never thought I'd ever find the solution to. But it's like, if you just stop and refuse the inputs that are constantly in your head, because this is the thing, you have social media that comes at you, you have people that come at you, but then you have other people's thoughts that are inside your head that you're constantly like being judged on and being thought about, and your friends and your family and your kids, and like there's all this craziness that goes on in your head. Once you quiet that out, a lot of solutions in life are actually very simple. And when you dial it back to real estate, like most people's problems in real estate can be solved by selling an extra house or two. Money actually solves a lot of problems. Like people are like, oh, the money is the root of all evil. Money can't buy you happiness. Well, you need to find another place to shop, because, you know, money can make me happy in a lot of ways. And I always challenge people. I say, if you don't think money can buy you happiness, like if I gave you $100,000 and sent you to Children's Hospital to donate to a child that was dying of cancer, how would that make you feel? It's like, your job should be to make so much money that you just have to give it away. I mean, that would actually change a lot of people's lives. So the solitude part that's solid to me. That I like that. Meeting with yourself, that's kind of how I handle things. The creativity. So I grew up in 2003. I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up with corded phones. Like I was one of the first people in 2006 that I know personally that was on Facebook, and I started social media, and the cultural difference between when I was a kid versus the kids today is insane. The amount of technology and the amount of bombardment that you get from things online affect everything in everybody's lives. And so when it comes to being creative, like I think people's creativity meter is off the chart right now. There's almost nothing that I think can't be done. But the urgency to respond immediately is insane. So I know when I was a kid and somebody knocked on my door, like people were excited. Oh my God, who's here? Like, let's go check it out. Like, we all rushed to the door. We thought it because we knew nobody that we didn't know was going to knock on our door. So somebody's knocking on our door. Like, we probably knew who they were. We were excited to see it. Today, it's more like somebody's knocking on the door. Who's that? Why is somebody knocking on the door? Or then you check the Ring camera. It's more of like a device to like make sure, like, because you don't want to talk to anybody, right? Like it's avoidance. It's like an answering machines. I mean, is that even a thing anymore? Like answering machine was like, it turned into a thing to where it became a call screening device. The phone rang, answering machine started, and you're like, I wonder who that is. Let's see if I want to answer it or not, right? And so, but we're constantly hit with all of this information, and we're just made to respond. And I have agents that they'll get a text message from like an upset seller or an upset buyer, and they'll want to respond right away. I'm like, no. And I've learned, for me, because like I'm half Italian, half Irish, like I have a low setting and I have a high setting. I don't really have much in between. So like if I get upset, like it just goes. So what I've learned to do is that, and I could actually use more practice at this, is that when something happens, I try to take a step back and like, wait a minute, like take a beat, take a second. Take a breath, because you're getting hit with a lot of things, and when somebody's upset with you in real estate, what they want you to do is they want you to react. And they're shooting their energy at you. And when somebody does that, that's them controlling you, and you never want that. You want to be able to control yourself. So anybody can feel however they want to feel, but you don't have to feel what they're feeling. So the reaction part is like, take a step back and realize that when two people are doing this, somebody's got to do that. Somebody's got to be the peacemaker and realize that that person on the other end, you don't know why they're angry. You don't know why they're upset. And you can't assume. You can't assume things. So you have to take a step back and you have to pay attention to what's going on there. And you have to answer and respond in the most professional and business-like way that you possibly can. There is a chance that that person's just an a-hole. They are them out. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's a bunch of a-holes out there. And you know what? Just because that person is an a-hole doesn't mean you have to be one. So, and in business, a lot of times, like, I don't care how big the deal is, sometimes it's better to just walk away from the deal. Like, if that person's a toxic, negative person, I can't tell you, Tracy and I've walked away so many deals with people just jerks. Just not nice people. Like, that, you don't need that in your life. Like, take your time, take that energy and go do something else with it. But the urgency to respond to everything immediately is insane right now. And sometimes, like on the weekends, I'll get messages all the time from agents freaking out. And I'm like, Saturday at 4 o'clock, ain't nothing happening to your escrow before Monday at 8 a.m. Maybe even 9 a.m. It's like, there's nothing that's gonna change. Nobody's gonna, like, if anything, if there's a fire on Saturday night on your escrow, by not doing something on Saturday, we'll probably put it out faster than doing something immediately. You know, and when there's an agent freaks out over the weekend because their client freaked out or something negative happened, that's a communication problem between you and your client if somebody's freaking out. And a lot of times when people freak out, it's a communication issue. It's like you haven't established your boundaries, you haven't had clear communication. And I always tell people, you got to take responsibility for that. But it's like, I have agents all the time freaking out on me on Saturday night. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'll call you back, but like, nothing's going to change. Like, you're going to be fine. Everything will be fine. And we're going to get our answers on Monday. Like, I think like Goldie in our escrow company, she's actually responded on the weekend. And I'm like, you're lucky. Because like, if I was an escrow officer, because first of all, escrow is insane. I would never be an escrow officer. You don't have a number that you could put on a check to make me do that. It's like, I wouldn't respond on the weekend. I'd be like, privacy, and you get an automatic alert. Yep, I'll be back in the office at 9 a.m. Good luck. But you got to really pay attention to how much you respond, because at the end of the day, whatever fires on that end, that's not your responsibility. You, your mental health, your physical health, everything about you is your responsibility. You're the CEO of your life. So you really have to pay attention to that. The emotional balance. One of the most successful characteristics of CEOs and multimillionaires and billionaires is emotional control. Is being able to control your emotions. I'm trying to teach my 16-year-old son this right now. It's a very difficult training process. But I found that out because, like I said, I'm half Italian, half Irish. Like, I can become very emotional. I've learned over time that, like, you know, only small certain things like will put me over the edge or whatever. But I really, it's always an inner conflict for me to not get upset about certain things. And I think that in general, like, there's something that we can all get upset about or mad about, but the more you can control that, the more power you have over yourself, I think is really important and really valuable.
So how do you do it? I mean, because I go crazy.
So you have to step back. So it depends. So depending on what the situation is, you have to step back and not respond and take in the information, reevaluate it, and figure out how to respond after that. But depending on the situation, sometimes you have to remove yourself from the situation. You have to like throw your phone away, like throw your phone across the room, give it to somebody else. Yeah.
I feel like what you previously said sort of contradicts the stereotypes of being a real estate agent, because like they say, you want to have your phone on you at all times,
Yeah.
answer calls right away, always be there for your buyers and sellers. But what you're saying is, maybe if it's not a good time emotionally, you should either wait to respond or find the way to control your emotions to keep the situation calm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And take every situation is going to be a little bit different. Like if somebody messages me and it's not the right time for me for whatever reason, I'll just say, hey, I'm busy. I'll call you back in a little bit. Or like, I'm doing something, I'll call you back after, or I'll touch base with you after. And nothing, like if somebody can't wait for you, then it's not that important anyways. And they probably weren't going to use you anyways, or there's probably going to be an issue anyways. Like you have to manage yourself. And you can't focus on other people's needs in that way if it's going to harm you. Yeah.
So basically just set boundaries.
Yeah.
This is my time.
Yeah.
You have to respect it. And that is hard thing to do.
It is. So when I go back to the solitude part, like you go through your day, at the end of the day, check in with yourself. How did today go? Say, Frank, how did today go? What could you have done better? What did you do fantastic? Like, how did it work out? And what are you never going to do again? What are you not going to let affect you? Have that conversation with yourself, because you'll look back and go, man, I probably should have done that. I probably should have said that to the other agent. I probably should. And listen, if there's something that happens in a situation and you're like, man, I could have done that better, that sucks. Reach out to another person if you think you handled something wrong. Say, hey, I just want to check in with you. I don't think I handled that the best. I apologize, blah, blah, blah. And always take responsibility for things that you've done. You don't understand how powerful that could be when because you don't know how that person's always taking something. So always check in with yourself at the end to see where you're at. Moral courage. That was an interesting one, I thought. Integrity. So it's really what is integrity to everybody?
Do the right thing.
When no one is watching, without expectations from others.
Yeah. So I feel like most people say it's do the right thing when no one is watching, but that's like you do the right thing for everybody else when no one's watching, right? Like don't go steal from other people, don't go do bad things to other people. But what about integrity for yourself? Like how are you holding yourself responsible for the integrity for yourself? And like how are you treating yourself in front of your family, in front of your kids, in front of your clients? Are you eating properly for yourself? Are you thinking the right things for yourself? Like there's a whole integrity issue when it comes to how you treat yourself and because if who has kids in here? Adult? No kids? No kids? I know you have kids. That'd be weird. So the thing is that you really have to pay attention to what you're doing and how you're doing things when you have kids, because your kids are watching you. Like your family's watching you, your spouse is watching you, your boyfriend or girlfriend is watching you. It's like you have to have integrity for yourself. And sometimes people will make judgments and decisions on you like subliminally. It won't be outwardly, but like if you say, I'm gonna go do this, and then you just don't do it, and it's really not that big of a deal, your spouse is like, well, they said they were gonna do that, but they didn't do it. And it's not gonna be a big deal, but enough of those add up. That internal integrity will start waning. Does that make sense? So I found that was an interesting one right there. The magnanimity of the great soul part. This is probably the biggest issue in real estate is doing the work. Most agents will leave an office because, the office, there's not enough people in the office, or I don't get enough leads, or they'll blame everything else. Like if an agent's business isn't where it needs to be, they will blame everything but what the real reason is. So if an agent's business isn't where it needs to be, what do you think the problem is? Anybody? What's that? But why? Why is it their fault?
Because they are not trying to find leads,
They're not doing the work.
They're
Not doing the work. So what would you say to an agent that says, I've been doing this for 6 months and I don't have any business?
I'd say keep trying, just keep it up.
Keep trying.
But just do double the work.
Okay. What were you gonna say, Sandy?
You reach out to your sphere of influence. Do people know that you're a real estate agent?
What were you gonna say, Ashley?
Yeah, the same. Reach out. Oh, need to do a change.
Yeah, what?
Need to do a change, something.
Why, should they change the office or should they
No,
change?
change something that they are doing.
Yeah.
Something is not working.
So a lot of times, people will come into real estate and they'll expect the business to come, not realizing that the whole reason that you don't have business right now as a real estate agent, it's you. You're probably just not good enough. I mean, that's the hard truth. You're just not good enough. So how do you get better? How do you become better? Well, you have to do the things that you're not doing, which I will tell you is these two things. If you're not where you want to be in your real estate business.
Oh, I was gonna take a picture of that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? You can go back and watch this video. It's these two things.
You can never have enough of that.
Those two things, industry knowledge and conversations with people. If your business is not where you need to be, you need to know everything that's going on in the real estate business. Like NAR just sent out a thing saying that all the forms and all the contracts and everything, we're gonna postpone all that stuff. That's not happening right away. I can guarantee you most agents don't know.
I do. So they're not, so August 17 is not the date
It's
yet?
not the date.
All right.
So.
I love it.
So, but that's my point, is it's just like, if you have to know everything that's going on and how it's going on, especially like locally. Like, did you guys know about the building that's going up down here? It's a brand new building.
We're at.
There isn't one, I was just saying that.
Ah,
But it's just, the point is that, like, does anybody know about the condo tower for homeless people?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Santa Monica, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like, you should know everything that's going on, because you never know who you're gonna run across and what they're gonna say.
There's one in Venice.
You said something about Santa Monica. What I know.
I don't know where it's at, but it's like, I heard the amenities and I'm like, what's the rent there? That's like, let's move, like, that's, it was crazy. But my point is that you have to know what's going on, because you never know who's gonna say what or ask questions. And when you get an objection, how are you gonna handle it if you just don't know what's going on? And the way you do that is that you have to have conversations with people. And if your business isn't where you need to be, you're not having enough conversations. Because people are gonna buy and sell. Buy, sell, or rent. Everybody on the planet. Especially in LA, because now there's a homeless thing to where like even the homeless people are gonna start renting. Like everybody's gonna rent. Or buy, or sell. So you have to figure out, are you having enough conversations to facilitate the business that you're in? And I'll tell you this, like Richard Schulman did 256 transactions last year. Do you think he's having more conversations than you? Probably. So if you want to do that many, do you think you could have as many conversations as he's having? If you did a quarter of the conversations he's having. But at the end of the day, the only reason you're not where you need to be is because you're not that good yet, because you haven't put in the work. And you just put in the work by actually, the work is talking to as many people as you possibly can about real estate. And if you want the low hanging fruit and the easy button is you talk to the people you already know. Not because they're gonna buy or sell, but because they already like you, they already know you. And a bulk of agents' business don't come from the people they're talking to, it comes from the people that they're referred to. So if you're like, oh, my family will never use me, that's fine. Will they tell somebody else about you? Do they like you enough to where they'll say, hey, my cousin, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, whatever is a realtor, you should probably use them. Most likely, you shouldn't expect everybody you know to use you. You should expect everybody that you know to be an advocate to tell other people about you. I have amazing stories on how this happens, like things that I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, I just one, like Tracy had a lady that's never used her. Used another real estate agent's been in her farm for like 20 years or something, referred her to her son and said, you can't use anybody else but Tracy, because she's like Tracy ingrained her brand inside this woman that's never used her, but she's referring people. And Richard Schulman's the same way. Richard Schulman's like, I email everybody on my kid's soccer team and my logo's at the bottom and I hammer them. And it's like, it gets referred, hey, you should use Richard. Richard's a really great guy. But it comes from doing the work. So like when we coach together, I sit down with you, I'm like, so what'd you do all week? How many conversations do you have? Most people are like, I don't know. And so it's like, what happens is I get really granular with it if we have too many meetings, and I'm like, I need you to write down everything you do within 15-minute increments the entire day. And that becomes very uncomfortable, but I'm trying to make a point where your action, the real estate business to me is one of the easiest businesses because it really comes down to volume of conversations that you're having on a daily basis. So questions, thoughts? Yes.
I was at the, getting a new passport, so I was at the passport line and two people were talking and I chimed in and started talking to them. But it never occurred to me that I should have just go ahead and said I'm a realtor. Why did somebody ask me? So like, what do you do? he goes, oh, I need your number because my dad is gonna need you one, we're gonna need you. But so he had to bring the conversation. I didn't know how to approach it. Right? And I've been in business.
You
before.
don't know, you didn't know how to approach it?
I did, but I should have been, like, I should have been the first one to say, this is what I do.
But you still said something and you got
Oh,
it.
yeah, I did, I got their number, I got it. But, it's still hard, even after 19 years in business.
How do you make it easier?
That is what I need to work
You
on,
gotta do it more.
just keep talking.
If you're scared to get on a roller coaster and I put you on that roller coaster 20 times in a row after you threw up, you'd probably be pretty comfortable with getting on the roller coaster. Probably wouldn't scare you anymore, right? If you're scared of jumping out of a plane and you did it 50 times, the 51st time you'd probably be okay. Just gotta keep going, because I mean, there's a lot of things you did for the first time that you were like, holy crap, I don't know if I can do this. You did it multiple times and you were fine. I mean, it's repetition, it's reps. That's all it is. It's not like you have to be this smart or this talented, like that's never gonna come out of my mouth. It's really the repetition of the things you do and the consistency of it. The best way to start a conversation, does anybody know the best way to start a conversation?
Yeah.
What's that?
What is that called? The, the four-letter thing?
The Ford.
The board.
That's for people you
Yeah.
know. So you're gonna call, when you talk to people you know, you can start with the Ford conversation. But when she's talking about when you're standing out somewhere in a crowd of people and you don't know anybody, how do you start a conversation?
Oh, like a random person?
A random person, how do you start a conversation?
Ask them about themselves, like, what do you do, or how are you, and.
For compliment.
Sandra, if you walked up to me randomly and asked me what I did, I'd be like, excuse me?
So how do you-
Like, who are you?
What do you do?
What's your
You
business?
ask me.
What I do, your business?
Oh, I know.
Oh,
I
no,
think that's
you
mine.
already got yours.
I was-
Shay, what are you gonna say?
I would say, like, to break the ice, probably compliment them on something.
Exactly, yes.
So what would you like, what would you
Just like,
compliment?
Oh, I
somebody?
love your shoes.
Yeah, I like your hair.
Absolutely,
Where did you get that bag? How'd you
Yeah.
know?
absolutely, 100%. 100%. I was trying to make a point to somebody that told me that everybody's a real estate agent. And why would I be a real estate agent? Because everybody knows somebody that's a real estate agent. And I said, well, because you just never know who's gonna buy or sell. We were sitting at a bar and I was talking to my friend. And so the bartender was a female and had a ring on. And I said, just randomly, out of the blue, he had no clue I was gonna do this. I said, you have a ring on, you're a married woman. I was curious, do you rent or do you own? And she's like, oh, we rent, but we're actually looking for a place. You know, and you just say, oh, that's a really cool thing, and then just start asking questions after that. When you say something nice to somebody, like that changes everything. Because they now know you're a nice person, you're saying something nice to them, and you're not talking about yourself, you're talking about them, and it elicits a response. Somebody goes, oh my God, those shoes are amazing, where did you get those? And you start asking questions about yourself. Oh, what do you do? Like you just throw in, what do you do? How long have you lived here? Like, when you start doing that, what happens is reciprocity kicks in, and then they start asking you questions about yourself.
There's actually this TikToker and he goes around asking people like, what do you do for a living?
Yep.
And I think initially they're a little bit shocked to be like, who are you to ask me that?
Yeah,
So I can understand that's kind of a jump
yeah,
question.
yeah. But like, it's the one, you're talking about the one that's in the car, you ask people in
Yeah,
cars.
they're like driving their fancy cars.
Yeah, so a lot of times he's like, oh my God, you have an amazing car, what do you do for a living?
Okay, so he does start. with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little compliment.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, oh my God, your car is amazing. We're like, so I mean, that's the thing, you have to compliment people, but there is some trepidation and it is a little weird to walk up to somebody and just do that. But it's like, because we've been programmed to not talk to strangers. Now, like, you're a part of my office and I'm like, go talk to strangers. And you're like, but my mom said, don't talk to strangers. And like, it's been ingrained in us. So you have to get that out of your system to realize that like, you have to go talk to people. And that's the way you have to take your one person that you think you know, because I ask people all the time, how many people you know? They're like, oh, I know 20. Like, you know way more than 20. It's like, you have to take this person and make it another one, another one, another one, another one. And there's literally, you could go out here in the hall, in the front of the building as people walk in. And as they're walking up to you, like you get to act like you be on your phone and walk and see somebody with nice shoes. And, oh my God, you have such nice shoes. Where did you get those shoes from? And start a conversation with people coming into the building. Now, there'd be a point in time where they're like, I'm gonna call security on this person, it's a little weird. Because we do have homeless people out here that are like freaky sometimes, but you can literally walk around. Another way to get a lot of business and to change your business is you can wear a name tag. You can wear a name tag. You know, a tapatia like shirt. I don't know if that's gonna get drilled, but but if you wear a name tag, when I first started in real estate, I was rookie of the year, and then I was given charge of 10 agents to coach. And one of my agents was a super young kid. He was in his 20s, and he wore a name tag that said Keller Williams, had his name on there, Jameson. And he was standing in line at the post office, and somebody noticed the name tag and asked him a question about real estate, and he got his first listing from that. Yeah.
My mom was actually recently getting ice cream with my little brother, and there was these ladies, they were wearing Remax earrings. And she asked them like, oh, are you guys real estate agents? Like, my daughter just started in real estate. Do you have any advice for her? So like, yeah, just having something on you that could initiate the conversation as well.
Yep, absolutely. And then I think one of the other ways, if you guys don't want to do any of those two things, is what you're doing. Like open houses right now, like if you can do an open house, like, and the thing is that don't bank everything on one open house. If you can literally do an open house every day, you can take your sphere of influence and just blow it up. Open houses are not for everybody. They can be dangerous if you're a female, so always do it with somebody if you can. Our lender will do open houses with you, Oscar. He's really good with that. But those things will help blow your business up a lot. We don't have, what happened to our clock? I don't even see what time it is. All right, we're gonna wrap everything up. Any questions or anything before we wrap this up? Thank you guys for all the, yes.
In the video, he said the word equanimity.
Yes.
And I don't know this word. Do you know a definition?
I will get it for you, because I
Okay.
don't know if I can articulate it, but I understand what it means. All right, let's play the last video and get.
I just want to say something really quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for the meeting and all the knowledge. You know, I am a pro-solitude person because when I'm in a solitude, I actually find many answered in my life. But you know how, Frank, you were telling that you can go in the dark and just think and get all the thoughts out and, you know, all the answers coming. To me, you know, I've been doing chanting meditation for the last 15 years, and that's what I do every morning, at least for an hour. And actually, without thinking, all the answers come. So, you know, there are different ways how you can get all the answers also. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let's wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of you are in the darkest of darkest valleys. I don't know what you're going through, but I know what you need. Hope. And I want you to know that beautiful things can come from your broken pieces when you give your broken pieces a chance.
It is okay to be scared. It is okay to cry. But giving up is not.
I just want you to know that it's not the end. It matters how you're gonna finish.
I don't care how dark it looked for you. I don't care what they done said to you. I don't care what the verdict is. I don't care what the haters say. It ain't over. No matter what happens to you, it ain't over. Ain't no such a thing as over. Do you know, man, that you can actually mess your life completely up? You can jack it all the way up, and you can turn around and get it right. Do you know that you can be divorced multiple times and still be okay? Do you understand that you cannot have a degree and still be just fine? Now, whatever you've been through, whatever that is, guess what? You still here. You have a great life in front of you. But your great life is in front of you. It's not behind you. Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you ask God for. You just got to quit tripping while you're in the process, because the process is necessary. You may not see it now, but when he gets you on the other side of it, you're going to see exactly why it went that way. And you're going to be okay with it. Pull yourself together and quit tripping, because you in the process. God is processing you. He ain't through with you. If he was through with you, you would not wake up in the morning.
When you feel like giving up, don't. When you thinking about giving up, don't. When it look like you ain't gonna make it, keep going. When they tell you you can't, come on, man, who are they? When they tell you to put all your stuff back on your desk, don't do that, man. Don't do that. When they tell you you're not gonna make it, don't believe them, man. Don't believe them. You got to be relentless.
And I'm saying to you, what if all of us took that attitude after we face a rejection and a no, or we have a meeting and no one shows up, or somebody say, you can count on me, and they don't come through. Nobody believes in you. You've lost again and again and again. The lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day, and say to yourself, it's not over until I win.
The harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. See, what you become in the process is more important than the dream. That's far more important. The kind of person you become, the character that you build, the courage that you develop, the faith that you're manifesting. Oh, it's just something that you get up in the morning, you look yourself in the mirror, you're a different kind of person. You walk with a different kind of spirit. And people know that you know what life is, that you have embraced life. You knew it was hard, but you did it hard.